Michuxis, my name is Sky Inararity. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist here in the Sacramento Valley, and today we will be discussing culture as treatment, Northern Sierra Miwok basketweaving. Here is a long bio that I will not be reading to you all. I will let you pause and read at your leisure. The take-homes from it are that I am Northern Sierra Miwok. I am a citizen of the Ion Band of Miwok Indians, and I explore intergenerational trauma and resilience, both in my clinical private practice as well as in my academic experiences as a PhD student. Here are 3 learning objectives that we will be using today to help guide our session. So first, we will explore the concept of Indigenous praxis, how it is value-guided, community-informed, and land-based, and it is exemplified through cultural practices that serve a variety of purposes in Indigenous communities. Second, we will discuss how Northern Sierra Miwok basket weaving has been and continues to be a prime example of culture as treatment, where the acts of gathering plant material, preparing to weave, engaging in weaving, and beyond are all practical in their application, as well as symbolic for individual and community growth alike. Finally, we will reflect on the psychological importance of continuing to connect with our respective communities, and participants will be encouraged to explore strategic ways of connecting that fit within our busy day-to-day lives. So let's start by talking about Indigenous praxis. First of all, praxis means practice. We have theory and we have praxis. We have the theoretical and we have the practical. Indigenous praxis is value-guided, community-informed, and land-based. And it is not siloed within the individual. It comes from the collective, it is communicated by the collective, and perpetuated by the collective. Indigenous praxis serves many purposes in that it helps to inform us of where we come from, who we are, and who we will become. And in another example of Indigenous praxis, other than basket weaving, is storytelling. Storytelling serves many purposes. Sometimes it's humorful and it's a way to pass time. Other times it tells us how things came to be or how people came to be. And yet another way that storytelling serves a very practical purpose is that we tell cautionary tales and tales of consequence to children. Basket weaving, similarly, serves many purposes. Practical purposes such as, it was a way to cook food, it was a way to contain food. It was then a practice that was able to bring in a source of income for many Native folks in the mid to late 1800s and even into the early 1900s as well. It's also a way of communicating knowledge, a very practical, hands-on way of communicating knowledge. And it helps facilitate other forms of Indigenous praxis like storytelling. A lot of folks like gathering to weave, and in the process of weaving together, there's lots of storytelling. Looking at culture as treatment, specifically practical application and symbolism, we'll start first by looking at gathering plant material. So the 2 photos here represent the process of gathering sedge. This first photo is what sedge looks like on the surface, and the second photo is the root below, which is used as our weaver. So gathering plant material, well, practically, you can't weave unless you have plant material. So you got to go collect it, otherwise you won't have anything to weave with. The symbolism behind it is that it represents a slowing down, a recognition of the world outside of us, and how it operates in its own ways. I can't make sedge grow faster. I can't gather sedge root any faster than carefully digging around it. So that's just an example of some of the symbolism there. In terms of preparing to weave, we have two photos to represent that process. The first photo includes a collection of basket material, including sedge, deer grass, as well as willow. And the second photo is of sedge root that has been wrapped and is curing or waiting to be used. So the symbolism in the preparing to weave section, that represents a shift in our intention and our imagining of a basket that's going to be woven. Again, in preparing to weave, we have to have enough basket material to work with. So we often return to the gathering plant material part of the process to then generate enough material to then work with. Once we have enough material to work with, we then engage in weaving and beyond, which consists of more weaving and often more material gathering. So in both of these processes, or parts of the process rather, it's important that we pay attention to intention. We pay attention to our state of mind. If we are feeling negatively impacted, most folks will not weave. They will set their material off to the side to then pick up at a later time. This is also a part of the process where we begin to imagine designs and or decoration. And a lot of that takes place up here. Very rarely do folks plan it out, although that's more than reasonable when folks do. And these two photos are of my most recent basket start, which is growing slowly, as it is an intentional practice where you gotta have enough material. So the psychological significance of basket weaving goes back to our concept of Indigenous praxis. It's value guided, it's community informed, and it's land based. It gets us as individuals to strengthen our sense of identity, and in terms of the collective, it strengthens our sense of belonging. Not only in the singular act of basket weaving, but all of the other ways of being and knowing that it facilitates in the process. So we now have an opportunity for reflection and personal application. Let's start by asking ourselves the question of what values are most important to me and how do I enact them in my day-to-day life? Following that, what role does community play in my day-to-day life, and how can a feeling of belonging enhance my well-being? Then, what is my relationship with land, and how can connecting with land enhance my well-being? What cultural practices do I participate in that are similar to basket weaving, in both practicality and symbolism, for example? And how can I apply information presented today in my personal life to enhance my overall well-being, sense of belonging, and connection with land? So here are some tips and takeaways. First and foremost, everybody has values. Taking inventory of them can be very helpful and can enhance how meaningful and fulfilling our experiences can be. Interacting with community and connecting with land when, where, and how we can also enhance our sense of belonging and our overall well-being. Cultural practices are by nature value-guided, community-informed, and land-based. And overall, engaging in cultural practices can mitigate stress and mental health symptoms and increase our quality of life. So today we briefly explored the concept of Indigenous praxis, explored how value-guided, community-informed, and land-based cultural practices serve a variety of purposes in Indigenous communities. We briefly discussed basket weaving as culture, as treatment. And we also reflected on the psychological importance of continuing to connect with our respective communities and explored ways in which we can fit that into our busy day-to-day lives. Thank you for your time and attention today. And before we wrap up, I would just like to say a big shout out and thank you to Jennifer Bates and Kimberly Stevenott, my basket weaving mentors.